Hello, and welcome to the Libri Labra book club. I am joined by John, BookTube hubby, and also book club VIP, Tom Brennan. Tom Brennan. And this week we are going to be discussing The Testaments by Margaret Atwood. Hold on one second. Okay. So this was nominated by Tom. Tom, do you want to tell us a little bit about why you nominated it?
Well, we had read the first one in book club, and I figured this, update from the author, after I forget how many years afterwards.
It has been quite a few years.
Yeah, so I just thought it'd be interesting to see where she went with it. So, and the thing with sequels and such is, you want enough the same so that it's recognizably similar, but not so much that it's like, well, why did I even bother to read this? like the other one. So, and I'm not saying that's a problem or a great thing about this book. I'm just saying that's one of the issues I kept thinking about as I was reading the book.
So we will give our initial thoughts on the book before we jump into spoiler territory. So just be aware that we are going to be talking about spoilers of the book. If you've read the first book and you've watched The Handmaid's Tale, I would suggest picking this up because it kind of continues after that. But what were your initial thoughts on the book?
I don't know. It's kind of hard for me to actually keep track of some of the things that was happening, but I liked it. I liked the story. I like the Handmaid's Tale story as is. So more information on it was, I don't know, I was open to it, but it's going to have to get a reread for me.
I feel like, and it's kind of weird saying you enjoy a book about such challenging topics, but I felt like I liked it more than The Handmaid's Tale, which was a little surprising for me. I don't think I loved the writing of The Handmaid's Tale, although it's very similar in the fact that the characters are telling their own story or kind of journaling or cataloging what the events and stuff. So I'm wondering what made a difference for me. I don't know if it's because Claire Danes read the last one, didn't she? I believe.
I believe so, yes.
Yeah. So I don't know what it was about this one. And usually I don't like books that have multiple perspectives. I could see it working sometimes in romances. I don't mind it too much if it's each partner's perspective. But this one had 3, and I thought that was going to annoy me, but it didn't. There wasn't any point where I felt like I didn't want to hear that person's perspective and I wanted to move on to someone else's perspective, which I think is what I feel a lot of times when there's multiple perspectives. Mm-hmm. So I enjoyed it, and I loved that one of the characters was Aunt Lydia, and that she was narrated by the woman that plays Aunt Lydia on the TV show, who's Ann Dowd. And I thought she just did a phenomenal job with, reading her part. Do you have any initial thoughts, Tom?
To the point, going back to my point, about having be similar or different. I mean, this initially when I started reading it, it's like, okay, what are we learning about Gilead, that we didn't know before? And the answer was not much, because we've been introduced to the eyes, we've been introduced to all this stuff. Maybe how things are set up is how I guess Aunt Lydia controls the aunts and and the various other units within Gileadian society and how they interact with one another. So, but I don't know. But as I got into it, I was like, okay, I think I could see why she wrote it this way, because I don't think, in contrast to The Handmaid's Tale, that it seems like there's 2 different end games here. But the second one seems more of a straight-ahead adventure sort of a book, rather, because she's already built the world. Now we can have stories that take place in it.
Right.
So
Okay, so at this point, we will jump into spoilers. To me, because I've seen Margaret Atwood talk about why she wrote The Handmaid's Tale and how I think it's like the masterclass commercial, because she has a masterclass where she's talking about where she's talking about the fact that she didn't put anything in the book that hasn't already happened, that hasn't that's not plausible. She didn't want to be accused of being a monster by making these things up. So like she put very realistic things in there. And even though that's true, it still felt distance. I felt like there was space between that world that she had created when it first came out. But I think now that space has closed significantly. And to me, it felt like she wanted to change, almost like she wanted to manifest something with the Testaments. Like she wanted to put something different out there, because she had put out The Handmaid's Tale, and like slowly but surely we're seeing things happening that coincide with The Handmaid's Tale so much. And so to me, the Testaments was like, I'm going to change the narrative. I'm going to change the story. Maybe things will change in the world too, is what it felt like to me. That's what it felt like reading it. Like I felt like this was where The Handmaid's Tale was like, oh my gosh, this is scary. This is dystopian. This is like horrible. The Testaments felt hopeful. It felt hopeful. Like, I don't know how else to describe it other than that. It felt like, you know, things can change regardless of how terrible we can be as human beings. People can see the light. People can change. People can turn things around. And so for me, that's what the Testaments felt like. I don't know if you have any specific questions that you wanted to. I didn't look up a reading guide for this, because I imagine there probably is one.
I didn't either, but I just thought it's interesting. Number one, that, you know, again, Atwood picks up 3 different viewpoints and puts them into a book, and then calls it the Testaments, as though it's like a Bible. And it's like, okay, we have the Testament of Daisy, we have the Testament of Aunt Lydia, and we have the Testament.
Everybody had multiple names. Was Daisy Jade?
Yes,
was that the same character? Yeah, okay.
Daisy, Jade, Nicole.
Yeah.
And then whoever became Aunt, what the hell was her name? Not Immortelle, but the other one.
Victoria.
Aunt Victoria, yeah.
Agnes. Hannah.
Agnes, yes, Agnes, that's the one. So it's like we have the Gospels according to each of these characters, and this is their version of events as they live them. So, but I mean, what do we learn in this book that we didn't know from The Handmaid's Tale, I guess, is one question. And there will be spoilers of The Handmaid's Tale, more than likely. So if you haven't read that one either, I don't know why you're listening to this.
I mean,
outside of a lot of Lydia's backstory,
I feel like I learned a lot about Lydia. And not just reading The Handmaid's Tale, but I think, and I'm going to try really, really carefully not to say too much about the show, but like, I definitely had a love-hate relationship with her, because like sometimes I could empathize with her. Sometimes I could see that she cared about the girls, but then she still upheld all these, you know, hurtful rules, and she still maintained this order in such a terrible place. So it was always like a back and forth for me with how I felt about Lydia. So it was actually surprising to me how I felt being in her head. I didn't really, reading the Testaments, I didn't quite feel the same feelings of anger as I did watching the show, just because, you know, more of her motives were, they were clear, because you don't spend time in Lydia's head in the show. So you just see her doing good things, doing bad things, but you don't really know what's happening behind the scenes. So kind of seeing her thought process, and like every time she did something that was essentially breaking the rules that she was supposed to be maintaining. I felt like I was rooting for her because I wanted her to finally break out of everything that was happening. And, you know, obviously she did finally see that it's just hypocritical. They created this whole rule structure that they don't even abide by. So, like, why should anybody else? So, I don't know. That's what I feel like I got out of it. Or what I learned just being inside her head and finding out her motives.
Right. Because it was surprising that she's like the deep cover. For Mayday in this. And she's the one who helps bring Gilead down eventually.
There were a couple of parts, though. Like, I didn't initially understand what was going on with Nicole and why they were sending her to Gilead, because obviously they had already pulled her out of there. Why send her back? But, you know, it was surprising to me that it was Lydia that had been pulling all the strings. Because in the beginning of the book, they're like, there's a spy, there's a Mayday spy that's doing something. And you're like, oh my God, who is it? So to find out that it was Lydia all along, it's just, I don't know, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, but when you see her, or when you get her origin story, it kind of makes sense, because it's like, okay, you either collaborate with us or you get shot. Which do you choose? It's like
right. And I mean, you wouldn't be able to actually do so much damage to something unless you were on the inside. So if it's something that she put herself in a position to where either she was going to be of power in such a, you know, in that place, but also, or the other term was, like, you know, just not being anything and being treated like trash the whole time, or killed. So she held her place of power and a certain level of duplicity the entire time, really.
Which, I mean, is just difficult all the way around, I guess, especially when you're the person who, you know, believes in law and order and upholding specific traits.
And no wonder she was this freaking ball of stress and hatred.
Well, when the rules are designed to uphold a certain not situation, that's not the word I'm going for, but a certain way of life, per se, you know, because it's all built for white men in this. And, you know, she only obliquely refers to the certificate of whiteness, which was a flop, apparently. But, you know, the overarching theme is, you know, I got the impression that they were doing this, so, okay, we're going to preserve white society here, and we're going to, especially white male society here, and then we're going to make everything subservient to them in law as well as in practice. So that's what we have now. So
I think I had originally wondered why they picked these three characters. I mean, Lydia, I think, is an interesting character in her own right, so that's not a surprise. But they picked both of June's daughters. And I don't think it was till just right now that I kind of thought about what their role is. So you have the woman that knew society before Gilead, right, and was pulled into Gilead. So that's Lydia. And then you have Agnes, who was a baby. Yeah, but she was basically brought up in it. So she kind of lived and existed in it when she... So she kind of... Her reality is going to be completely different than someone that knew what life was like beforehand. And then Nicole was pulled out of it when she was a tiny baby, so she got to experience life outside of Gilead also. So
so, well, it, you know, serves to just show. I mean, if they hadn't done that, they were both from Gilead, you wouldn't be able to tell them apart, I don't think. But, you know, to have that, it would be, you know, just to show the meaning of cultures here and how different they were. You know, it's like Nicole going into Gilead and saying, well, you're not from around here. We can tell just because of the way you express yourself. And so same thing with Agnes going to Canada. We can tell you're not from around here because,
Yeah.
you know. So, but yeah, I just think it, and then to have both of, well, I expected Nicole, obviously, but I did not expect Agnes to be June's daughter as well. So,
Yeah.
although it seemed to be like very quickly, oh, we're sisters now. Okay, we're sisters, and you know, there we go. I think, oh wow, okay. So that seemed a bit quick to me, but you know.
I mean, their realization of it and their behavior afterwards, you mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I was kind of surprised by how that was revealed. Because Lydia just sat them down and just told them. I don't know if I'm forgetting, but what did they say about June at that point? Were they like, did they end it saying they were going to go look for their mom? Or was she not alive anymore? I don't remember what they said about her.
No, I think the setup for that was Ada. Ada? Was that the one from Canada?
Mm-hmm.
She said that her mother was still alive, but under very protected conditions. And we didn't know. So that's what planted that idea in her head, into
Right.
Nicole's head.
I'm just like wondering why Nicole wasn't with her.
Oh,
like, that
safety
surprised
reasons.
me.
Because remember, June already survived at least two assassination attempts. So she wanted to keep her daughter safe, is my guess. And keep her away from him. Because Gilead apparently wants Nicole in a big, bad way.
No, I mean, yeah, because they feel like they were robbed.
Mm-hmm. Oh, they're using it as a political statement now.
Yeah.
Yeah, she became like a, yeah.
Look at this shining example of our society. Now make babies for us, you know, sort of. So. Well, I'm looking at questions here, and it says, and this is a valid one, do you think The Handmaid's Tale needed a sequel?
I didn't, but I'm glad that there was one, because again, I just feel like, you know, she put it was a story. She put out this horrifying story out into the world, and now I feel like she's put something a little bit more hopeful out to follow it up, and I feel like I kind of needed that. I feel like thank you, Margaret Atwood.
Well, you know, plus, you know, the book one builds up the omnipotence, I guess, of Gileadian society, in the sense that, you know, June is trying to run away from it, and, you know, it's left unclear as to whether she actually does at the end of the novel. So now we know what the answer to that is now.
I think something I'm curious about is, well, firstly, I wasn't sure what time period the Testament is going to take place. I wasn't sure how it was going to interact with the TV show. So I kind of liked that she let the TV show be what it is and then kind of took over after that. Yeah. So I'm curious if when she wrote that, she spoke to anybody at the TV show, because season 4 is coming out. So
wouldn't it be interesting if they cover some of the events?
I mean, I guess 15 years is a long time, though.
Right.
So maybe not. Maybe it's so far beyond.
Well, she did that so she wouldn't interfere.
Yeah, so maybe they'll never intersect.
Was there some sort of TV literature history made here with this? That she worked with the TV show.
Well, that's what I was wondering.
Own,
like if
narratives?
maybe she did say, "Hey."
Well, she's good.
Yeah, that maybe she did say, "Hey, I plan on writing a second book. How can we best not mess each other up?"
Which implies that she recognizes the TV as canon, to me.
Right. I'm saying that's normally not the case.
Right.
Yeah. So.
But I feel like the TV show just did such a good job. Like, it did a really good job.
Yeah, and I put off the TV series because I didn't know how it intersected with this book. So I was like, now I've read the book. Now I can go and actually.
I'm
TV
super
show, yeah.
interested to hear
do it.
your
So-
thoughts on it.
So there is that.
You said you haven't watched the TV show at all, not even the first season.
One episode, first
Okay.
episode. So
So you come in with a completely different perspective.
Yeah, because
then. Okay. All right, I like it.
I feel like lots of light bulbs will go off when,
Dude,
when you watch it.
I'll make sure to keep an eye on the chat when you guys are sort of talking about it. And he's like, "Oh,
yeah, that's what I said. Once I found out a sequel was coming out, I said I'm gonna stop and I'm gonna wait to see what the sequel has. And thinking that they would intertwine somehow, but they don't apparently. So
that's why you were surprised that. Okay, all right.
Now it all makes sense.
Okay.
The trailer for like season 4 just came out. Did you watch it? I sent it to you.
Maybe. Yeah.
Okay. We'll have to go back and watch it.
I don't like trailers. They give away too much.
No, I'm not going to say anything about it. I just wanted to make sure that you watched it.
Okay.
It was intense. But it's not coming out till like 2021, so.
You got plenty of time to watch it all, Tom.
Yeah. as they bring out more and more seasons, right? Yeah. Did the Testaments change your perception of Aunt Lydia? Why or why not?
Yes.
We already explained that, actually.
What? Yeah.
Well, you did anyway.
Yeah. Like, I think in situations where you're talking about law and order, I think it's interesting because you have the people that are like, well, these are the laws, this is what you have to do. But, sometimes laws don't make sense. Sometimes laws hurt people, and it's up to us to be responsible to change those laws and things like that. But it's easy to kind of look at someone and be like, well, they're bad or they're good, and just kind of make this quick judgment. But human beings aren't either or. We have both mixed in there somewhere at different percentages at different times in our lives. So, Lydia was always Team Gilead, so it was always easy to be like, well, she's a bad person because she's
she went straight from Umbridge to Professor Snape here on on the scale.
Mm-hmm.
And like that reference is going to make no sense to Tom.
No, I know what he's talking about.
Okay.
I've seen the Harry Potter films.
But like the book allowed her to show her shades of gray, and it allowed her to show her true self and her real story, and you get to see her as a human being and not just as a horrible person upholding the rules of Gilead.
Right.
If you pay attention to specific parts in her scenes, and you'll see it in the show too, Tom, now if you go into that, how much when Lydia surprises you with what she does, they're for really good reasons.
Oh, in the show?
In the show and in the book. Like, there was a couple times I'm like, why the fuck did she just do that? And a little bit later, it's like oh, okay. So you really do have to pay attention to what she does, though, because it's the little actions in different spots. Well, like they're threads. They go somewhere. I
mean, and that's why I think I flip-flopped a lot with her, because there were some times where I'd see things where like she would show empathy, or you could tell that she cared about June or about the other handmaids, and sometimes you could see that she was standing up to protect them or stand in the way of them being punished, or like different things. She would just take different.
But it depends on where and for what reasons.
Yes. They have to be politically acceptable reasons for her to do it. Otherwise, she'll get found out. So.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Is like she's like some sort of political mastermind. She's got every a little bit in every situation, and she knows how to spin everything. That's the reason why she stayed on top for so long.
Yeah, she knows how to play the ends against the middle, like with the other aunts. Like when she put the camera in her statue to see who was leading the offerings and such. So,
what I think is still like one of the more uncomfortable parts for me in regards to the handmaids and their role was how the handmaids deliver the punishment, and how it almost seemed like they're conditioned to be like these rabid dogs. Like
They are.
But it's hard for me to kind of make peace with that idea while also seeing all the handmaids plotting and planning and trying to break out of Gilead, but yet fall in line for something like that. I don't know. Like it's hard for me to.
Well, what Gilead does is that they're doing something specific psychologically that actually messes with you emotionally, so that when you are triggered in any situation, that emotion arises instantly and really kind of overrides logic. So the fact that they actually have everything set up to where the handmaids are treated in such a way that they hold on to certain resentment for these people, and then when they're allowed to let it loose, they let it loose.
Yes.
Yeah. So
I mean, very specifically talking about them tearing apart the dentist because he was raping people. But I mean, like, when you think about it, the handmaids are getting raped all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So like,
that's what I mean. It's like when they build enough like this tension in a specific area, and then, well, that guy's guilty of it, so have at it.
I can't even, like, it was hard for me to even picture what was being described, like a bunch of women just grabbing different body parts and literally tearing a man to shreds. Like, that's tough.
They had rocks too.
Okay.
Well, that's all right then. Yeah. No,
well, those are tools. They help.
No, yeah. No, I think when you keep someone subjugated for that long, and to be meek and mild position, and they have this growing resentment, to it, and then all of a sudden it just builds up into, it's bottled up and bottled up and bottled up until it's going to explode. So that's when they have the participation and they let it all out, and then they go back to being docile again.
Is that a portmanteau of?
Can you stop?
Persecution and execution and what? Can I stop? What?
Participation, and execution.
Participation. That's it.
Yes.
Wow. Can I stop? What?
Nothing.
Not to bring current events into this. That's exactly what happened on the plantations. They would, subjugate them until eventually you had a riot, and then all hell broke loose.
What is the word that was used in the books?
Participation.
Right. It's just what the handmaids had to endure. I mean, like, even the aunts, although some seem to take the role of aunt to a completely different level. Like, you could see that some of the aunts that Lydia interacted with regularly were just very self-righteous and full of themselves, and like,
they were happy and proud
of the rights they were oranges.
Well, they were happy and happy with and proud of the rights they were accorded in the society, even though they were much more limited than men, because they had more than other women did. Because they could read, they could write, Oh, I'm sorry. Writing was supposedly reserved to men, but no.
No, but the aunts, writing, but they could read.
Writing. Yeah, they could read, yes.
Did you know that it was Lydia that had been leaving all the files for Agnes?
She would be the only one that we would know of that would have access to them. To do it on that consistent of a level. So, and if it wasn't her, then it's like, oh, well, that doesn't really matter to me. I mean, it doesn't really matter how they got the files; they just ended up on her desk. So, but yeah, it had to have been Lydia. Just like, as reading, it was like, Daisy must be baby Nicole just from the way they talk about her. So,
yeah, I think I had spoiled that for myself because I looked something up, and I didn't want to tell you.
Oh. Okay, good.
Right. So,
Because I was like, wait, who is this?
so. Although I wish they would have picked narrators with more different sounding voices for the young women, because they seem quite similar to me.
Agreed.
So,
I think I started paying more attention after you mentioned that, and then I was able to differentiate them, but it does require a little bit of.
yeah, because when I started, I was like, oh, is this the same narrator? Why would they have, a narrator for Aunt Letty, but the same narrator for the two girls? It's like, that doesn't make sense. And of course, it wasn't. It was, and of course, they got Derek Jacobi in at the end there. So
I'm surprised it wasn't something they had considered. Like, hey, they kind of sound similar.
Well,
maybe
they are
they're
sisters.
After all. Yeah. Maybe that is intentional.
So, but still, it's a pain in the ass. And you're listening to the book. It's like, okay, now who is this talking in? Oh, okay, she likes Gilead, so that must be the one.
Yeah, their attitudes help a little bit because Nicole was more of a firecracker, I felt.
Mm-hmm. Well, she was brought up to be. I mean, that's what society allows her to do, as opposed to Gilead, where you're supposed to be, the meek, mild woman who, patiently suffers in silence, I guess. So it's God's will. It's like, well, no, I don't think it's God's will in this case, but okay. Question 3, it says, in section 52, I think that says, Aunt Lydia says the aunts sometimes share information about their previous lives. Past lives are shared. I took care not to share too much of mine. What do these snippets of information that we hear tell you about the aunts? What opinions may they secretly have of Gilead? And what does it tell us about Aunt Lydia?
I mean, I remember from the show that any of them sharing their past was like a big no-no. Mm-hmm. Because then you start to remember of how things were and how things could be if you don't fall in line with everything. Interestingly, I don't remember Lydia being a judge in the show.
A judge how? She was a teacher.
In the show. Wasn't she a judge in the Testaments?
A judge, yes.
In her previous life? That's why they picked her, to uphold the rules, because she was originally a judge.
Okay.
In her previous life. So yes. I don't remember that being the case in the TV show. So that might be a place where they deviated, where Margaret Atwood deviated. But what was the final question?
Final question was, what does this tell us about Aunt Lydia?
I mean, to me, it readily explains why they selected her. And also why it was kind of easy for her to adopt what was happening. Because I think being a judge, I think you kind of learn these are the rules. This is what must happen, and so I think that was kind of easy for her up to a point. And the point was just that, she still had, even though it was kind of weird, she still had, a guiding moral compass, I think.
Yeah, she eventually passed judgment on Gilead.
Right.
So, let's see what else we have here. Oh yeah, with the information is power. I mean, a lot of things when Lydia describes the aunts, she'll say, "Oh, I know, like Aunt Elizabeth was like an actress or something in her former life, and she's this way and this way and this way, and this is how I can play her." So, and what was the other one? I can't remember the other two aunts' names. She said that like one of them was like wishy-washy, and she just went with the majority. Essentially, went with So she knows how to control her, and the other problem one was the one that got the Heartstopper punch. I can't remember her name.
I don't remember her name either. But was that the one that got punched? Was that the same one that was complaining about Aunt Lydia's statue getting the oranges?
Yes, and she was the one who pointed. I believe so. So, and that, again, that's what prompted the video cameras, and that's what they found out that, because Aunt Lydia is involved enough in Gileadian politics to know that people would see getting the oranges and such left at her statue as saying, "Oh, they're building her into some kind of idol. She must be denounced." So to nip that in the bud, that's why she said she had to get information as to what was going on and counterattack, so to speak. So, but my thing is, with the hidden cameras, they don't ever mention this, but it's like, if it was around the statue, I would think that the videos would have captured the punch, because I thought they were in front of the statue because she picked up an orange.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't ever mention that being caught on camera.
I think I was kind of expecting that too.
So,
but did it really matter when Aunt Lydia knew what they were doing and where they were going and kind of they escaped anyway? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but she put them together in such a way that she could disavow knowledge. It's like, here, you do this rogue mission on your own. I can disavow knowledge. It's like, okay, because I think that she was going to go with is that what was it? Nicole somehow corrupted Agnes and got her to escape. Without Aunt Lydia's knowledge. That would be the story there in case things went south.
What was the thing that tipped them off? Because somebody else was it Becca?
Yeah, Becca
was supposed to go with them.
Yes.
Yeah. What was it that happened that kind of tipped them off to that? Did someone just find out that Nicole?
The original alibi was that Becca had, I think that was Nicole that had run off with the plumber who had come to fix the cistern on the roof.
Right.
And as time went by, they figured out that wasn't true, and then eventually they find Becca in the cistern blocking the things. Which is the second time this has happened. I mean, you'd think they'd have some kind of preventive measures on it, but apparently not. So
I know that because we listened to this one together, and I'm surprised that we were able to finish it early. I'm surprised that worked out. We were able to finish it early, though John wants to reread it. But I know that there were so many times when we were listening and just hearing them describe the commander. I don't know if it was Commander Kyle or also there was another commander.
God.
Yeah, just hearing the expectation of the commanders, what the commanders did, what they wanted, how this one dude was trying to kill his wife. We kept hearing stuff and being like, man, men suck. This is terrible. This is it's just so bad.
Right. But that's why Lydia originally takes action with Nicole, because Commander Judd has a habit of, his wives have a habit of passing away. So you get fresh new young wives. So, and in order to prevent that from happening, that's what she did. She said, "Oh, well, do you have a prompting her? Well, do you have a calling?" And well, yes, I do. So, and again, that's a politically, yay for Gilead because this person has a calling, but I don't know. Let's see what else we have here. Even though Gilead seems to allude to having a lot of the same technology as the rest of the world, unbabies, deaths during childbirth, and other fatal serious ailments seem to be the norm there. Why do you think this is?
Well, I mean, I thought that was explained in The Handmaid's Tale a little bit. Maybe not super specifically.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was explained more in the TV show than it was in the book.
You think so?
Yeah.
That might be possible.
Okay.
So it's kind of hard to know that information and then answer the question.
Right.
But again, it wasn't like super explained, but there was war that broke out before Gilead that caused a lot of the land and the crops to be polluted.
They used nukes like idiots.
Yeah, like so
everything's irradiated.
Right, and so that started messing with people's
reproductive systems.
Genetics and whatnot. So it may not be the technology, it's just maybe the biology is different now, unfortunately.
Right. So there wasn't technology to really combat that, but that was the reason why Gilead was established and the handmaids were established, because the few that were still able to to have children were the ones that had to populate the rest of the, I don't know, what do we call Gilead? It's not like
territory.
It's big. Okay, sure. Territory is a good one, I guess.
It's
bigger than a town.
Everybody was like, "No, screw you guys."
Yeah, it seems to be New England essentially, like at least in New York to Maine, because they mentioned like Texas being independent. Yeah, Texas being independent, and of course that's where most of the white lives are. So that's why,
What was it that they called the colonies?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was the rest of the land that had been all jacked up. That was still really, really bad and heavily irradiated. Yeah.
The colonies were supposed to be set up so that those sent over there clean up the irradiated stuff.
Right.
For the rest of the other people to come live it.
Right. But the people that were sent there were the women who could not be handmaids, who could not.
Or they
were punished.
Yeah. But, they acted up too much.
Let's see. When Nicole and Agnes are traveling to Canada, Nicole says, "Just because people are related to you doesn't mean you love them." Agnes replies, "Love is like a discipline, like prayer." How have the girls' upbringings developed their perception of what love is?
Well, one's completely brought up by strangers who aren't blood to them, so they've grown to know that love can come from anywhere, not just your family. Well, that her family's been, what she knows of her family has never been close, so
right.
And then the other one is thinking it's just a type of faith.
Well, wait, who was the first person you were describing? Because I thought it was Agnes. Was it not? Oh. Because with Nicole, she didn't even know that her parents weren't her parents.
But when she said this was after she learned.
Right, but she did love them.
Right, but she just. So, what was the quote?
The quote was, Nicole says, "Just because people are related to you doesn't mean you love them."
So that the point that I'm making is that they weren't related to her, but she did love them.
Right.
Whereas like Agnes is a complete stranger to her. And then Agnes's experience is the complete opposite, because she was raised in Gilead, not with her family, with all these other people. So she had to learn to accept the situation and, respect the people that cared for her and helped her. And, she grew to care about the people. That
statement rings true for both of them then. In different ways.
In different ways, yeah, like in opposite ways. That's how I see that, I guess. What do you think of that, Tom?
I think that I think what Nicole is essentially saying is that family doesn't necessarily equal blood.
Mhm.
No, your family is what you make of it, and how you make it is by Agnes's. It's a discipline. You got to work at it every day. So
Mhm. It's also a choice that you make.
yeah. So there is that. Much like the Handmaid's Tale, the Gilead and the Testaments reflects a lot of situations in current society, especially in relation to movements such as #MeToo. What parallels can you see?
Are they using just that as an example, or are they asking parallels to the Me Too movement?
No, it was just an example.
Movements like Me Too, I guess.
Well, to me, the parallels that I see that are the strongest are this idea of these are the rules, you need to abide by them, and then that's what they use to control the people they want to control, while the people in power do whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah,
Right.
Screw those rules.
And so
Hypocritical.
I feel like that's the biggest parallel that I see right now, because I don't know how often I've seen politicians, put anti-gay laws into legislation, and then you find out later on that they've been
secretly gay the whole time.
Yeah. And that's like it didn't need to be a thing. Like, maybe if you could accept what's within you, you could accept other people too.
Right.
So I understand and appreciate the idea of laws existing to maintain order, but when it's about controlling people with less, so that the people on top can have whatever they want, like, that's just not, there's nothing cool about that. That's super upsetting.
Mm-hmm. Well, they put women like they say, oh well, this will cut down on man sees a woman on the street and he goes and rapes her. Well, that won't happen anymore, because guess what? We've institutionalized it in the upper echelons of our society.
But it still did happen. It's still
that was my point. Yeah. And it's socially acceptable then, because it's it's handmaids now. So yeah, they're okay with it. We're good.
So now, just to like hone in on the dentist a little bit, was he not married? Did his household not? Was it only commanders that had handmaids, or did all the married couples have handmaids?
I think it was for the commanders only.
Because there couldn't have been that many commanders.
Right.
I'm sure there were a lot, but not like, a whole territory full.
Yes, but they need constant new meat, so that's why they had so many handmaids. They have to give them something to do. I mean, they probably had all the Marthas and whatever else aunts that they needed. So
that's like, that's so barf worthy, even more so than I had realized.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's like when you say society built for you. I mean, that's what you do. You know.
So, but was the dentist married?
I think so.
Well, he must have been, because he had. So who was? It wasn't Becca that was his daughter. It was like Zilla. Am I thinking of the right person?
That was Becca. Becca was her daughter.
The dentist's daughter?
Yeah. Wasn't she?
Oh shit. Well.
That's why she was so upset when they did the partition.
Yeah, I remember Agnes saying that she didn't really
participate.
No, that she didn't. I think they had some kind of discussion, and she was surprised at the level of, I guess, sympathy or empathy that Becca felt, knowing what her dad had done.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, I'd have to go back and look to see if the dentist was Dr. Grove was actually her dad, or if it was via a handmaid that he's her dad.
Mm.
So, but regardless, I think at the time of the partition, she loved him like a father. So it's essentially the same thing.
Who was it that was like Agnes's friend that married? I think it was Kyle, Commander Kyle. Was that Shunammite?
Shunammite, yes.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, so
And she was more than happy to step into that position.
Yep. Well, there's a thing, Aunt Lydia knows that Commander Judd wants her dead, so she's going to allow her to be killed just because it is politically expedient. It makes Aunt Lydia's road easier to work with Commander Judd for the greater good.
That was sad. That whole
Oh,
thing
man.
was just like.
And that's how Lydia got all her information too, because she was the confidant for all the handmaids. She had the perfect setup, really.
Mm-hmm. Yep, information is power, so that's what she's trading in. Let's see. Well, we talked about this a little bit. Why do you think Atwood called the novel The Testament?
You guys discussed this at the beginning.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I mean, there's like the obvious biblical connections, but I mean, each character was sharing their truth, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Plus, use it in the context of a religious society like Gilead. That would be viewed as blasphemy, I'm sure. So, let's see what else we have. Well, I think this will be obvious, but I will ask. Of all the groups of women in Gilead, who do you think has the most freedom?
I would say the aunts.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's kind of hard because they're all trapped in their own little cycle.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I definitely think the handmaids have it the worst.
This would be the wives.
No, because like
they're only allowed
aunts
to knit.
could read. Yeah, the wives weren't allowed to read.
Okay, so the aunts then.
But then you have the Marthas, and I think the Marthas were just like, weren't they like retired handmaids, sort of like, basically they were beyond their childbearing years.
Sometimes, yes.
So they were the nannies and cooks and
So maybe the Marthas. Oh no, but they still couldn't read, so I don't know. So like, I feel like the aunts.
But were they happier? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't
Because
know.
their horizons are much shorter. So.
I feel like the aunts is difficult because on one side, they could do things like read, and they controlled a lot, but they still had to enforce difficult things. They had to dole out punishment, whereas Marthas don't really have to do all that. So like, I think maybe as far as internal peace goes, maybe the Marthas were able to have the most internal peace just because they didn't have to enforce the rules. They really didn't have to punish people. They didn't have to be handmaids and, fulfill any of the handmaids' roles. So they got to do simple things like cook and clean and, and of course that shit is hard enough to do for yourself. You don't want to be doing it for somebody else, but it still wasn't as challenging. They didn't have to make these really difficult decisions in their day-to-day, I feel like.
Well, that's what that is the clearest analog to Aunt Lydia, for example, would be Lord Varys from Game of Thrones. She has her network of people who society wouldn't look twice at otherwise.
that's what I was going to say earlier.
Yeah.
She's the spider.
Yep. So it's, they're important. It's an important position, but are the Marthas necessarily freer than the aunts? Maybe they don't. Maybe they don't see the horizon that the aunts can because they've been taught to read and such. So is that ignorance freedom? I don't know.
It's a good question.
True.
Yeah, I don't know the answer. I'm just saying that's who knows? It depends on the person. I would think. Not to say that there aren't perceptive Marthas that realize that, hey, here I am. Here's my horizon. There's not that much leeway here, So they have to be carefully taught, apparently. Let's see. Men are not portrayed very favorably in the Testaments. Are there any male characters who have redeeming features? Is it possible to be a man in Gilead and not be a bad person?
No.
Features or characteristics? Because I think his nose is a redeemable feature.
Right.
No, I don't. Not.
I can't talk.
Well, in the book, there's Garth, and he's hot, according to Nicole. So there's that. She's got that going for her. You remember who Garth is, right?
I remember he was helping Nicole with stuff. I don't remember exactly what his role was.
I believe he was the one who trained her to do the heart stopper. Remember, he was the one who was like, she wished that he would like her. So.
That's digging, but I guess.
No, that's not digging. That's in the book. Granted, it occurs outside Gilead, but yes, he's the real redeeming male.
Any man with redeemable features would have to not be a part of Gilead.
Yes,
that's it. That's it. That's
it. Are part of the resistance. Yes. So, but we know there's not many of those either. It's all women essentially. But again, if you had a society built for you, would you be that inclined to resist it? So, which of course maps to today's society, but we won't go there. Let's see. Last one here. The novel has multiple narrators. How does this format help you to understand the story in different ways? How effective did you find the narration to be?
I feel like, this is what I mentioned before in regards to each of them having different experiences with Gilead, one knowing life outside of it, and then having to adapt to it, and one being grown up in it, and then one being pulled out of it. So I feel like that covers kind of everything that you can as far as perspectives from the females in Gilead.
Inside and out.
Yeah.
No, because we know that, Martha would not be able to write their version of events. So, this is what we're left with, apparently. So.
Oh, that sucks.
That's true.
But although it's not mentioned in the questions, I'm surprised that they didn't mention the fact that Atwood ends the book with another symposium at the same place that she did in the last one, The Handmaid's Tale, with the same professor.
I don't even. That's funny. I don't.
Different narrator though.
I didn't like that part of the book. At that part, I felt like I was done. I was like, I don't want to examine all of this.
I like those actually. Make it look like it's they're looking back on a history of something that happened,
right?
Versus whatever the hell. It's that professor is going to be going through our shit in about 50 years.
Yeah. Look, I've been to the past. Look at this grape. It's like, well, how do you not know?
Oh God, they had this horrible president.
Oh God.
So, but that's what the historical record is. It's just your best guess as to what happened based on what you have available. So,
do we want to do final thoughts?
I'm going to reread it. 3 stars for my placeholder.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay. That's a first.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like there's so much that I missed, like in the details that I want to parse out of it before I. It's probably going to be at 5 stars because I enjoyed that much of the Handmaid's Tale as well. But
for me, again, I feel like this was a hopeful story, and I think it comes at a time where we need hope. And I really appreciated the different perspectives. I really appreciated the audiobook. I thought the acting was great. And I liked that at no point did I get tired of any of the perspectives. Like, even when it switched, I was okay with it, and I was ready to hear more of each perspective. And I would give it 4 stars.
Right. Well, one of the things I noticed is that everything they tried worked. I mean, which was unusual. Like, their plot went ahead, except for maybe the rowboat part of the plot. Everything they tried worked, so which I thought was interesting. But unlike the first book, I think I would characterize this as a YA adventure novel more so than anything else. And Margaret Atwood is certainly entitled to write one. I mean, if she wants, that's her thing. But then again, like I said at the beginning, how do you make this different from The Handmaid's Tale? Because The Handmaid's Tale is all about telling us how Gilead society function. Now we could see, well, what happens outside those walls, and how do you get out from the walls? So in the end, I gave it a 4. So I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was good stuff. Mm-hmm. I really hope you'll update us as you're watching The Handmaid's Tale. Yeah.
Yes.
I will try to do that. How many episodes are in a season? Do you know offhand?
I think it's 13.
Wow. Okay. It's not 22, which is good. But
yeah. No, stay away from the CW.
Yeah. Although Doom Patrol just came out, and that's really good.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Doom Patrol and Harley Quinn. Actually, the animated series is really good.
I do want to watch that.
It's different.
So next month, I don't have the book with me, but next month for July, we are reading The Immortalists by Chloe Benjamin. And This was a book that I nominated. I don't know if you noticed when you were selecting, but I picked 3 books that took place in New York. So that was the theme I had going there.
They're all historical fiction, weren't they? That's what I noticed.
Were they?
I think so.
That's interesting because I didn't notice that. I just saw that they all took place in New York. And I was like, sure, let's read something from New York. So The Immortalists by Chloe Benjamin. She has another book out, and The Anatomy of Dreams, maybe. And I kind of bought them both at the same time. I think this one has gotten better reviews, but we'll see. Should be fun to discuss. It's kind of asks the question about what happens when you know the exact date of your death.
Oh, yes, that one.
So I think that'll make for some interesting discussion.
Indeed.
But that's pretty much that. So if you got a chance to pop in, if you haven't read the book yet and you want to come back and you do watch it later, please feel free to leave a comment. I don't know how many people get through our entire discussions, but if you're still here and you're still listening, feel free to share how you felt about the Testaments, maybe what your not favorite part was. Anything works. So
say hi.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us, and I hope that you'll pick up The Immortalists and maybe join us next month as well. So thanks for joining us, Tom. I hope everybody has a decent weekend.
It better be a good weekend.
All right.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
See ya.